Hello and welcome, dear human family, to Navigating the Matrix with Natural Law Principles. I'm your host, Stephen Weyebrow, and I welcome you. And today I'm picking up on a show that I started more than 1.5 years ago. And my work evolved into different directions, and I didn't find the right time, the right energy to continue with the show, which the time has come now to do that and to share with you deep thoughts about the awakening, about what's going on in the world, about the internal and external conditions that are going on. How can we change the world situation? What has everything outside in this reality, the chaos and the more and more control that is going on in the world, the implementation of the 5G smart grid, and the potential of a system of total control and the total loss of freedom for humanity. What has that got to do with me? What has that got to do with you? What has that got to do with us as a human species? These are deep questions that drive into the heart of the esoteric tradition. And today I'd like to cover a lot of ground, so without further ado, I'd like to head right into the slides, and I wish you a wonderful journey along this show. So, I'd like to share with you that this show came together after a transformative experience that I had on the eve and in the evening and at night time during Halloween, which you may recall is one of the number one days for Satanism and for this satanic priest class that lies at the heart of this control system that is operating here on our planet at the moment. And as you may have noticed, I've been going through a lot of my stuff, like the last videos. I couldn't hide the amount of pain and suffering and frustration, sadness and anger that I was subjected to and that I was being ruled by. And it was my impatience and my lack of understanding for this process which made it even more painful. And this all has to do with low vibrational emotions in which we can stay trapped in. And that's a really important question to ask. Why? Why do we have to experience emotions like fear, emotions like sadness and anger? Why are these emotions here? Why don't we feel right sometimes, and then at other times we're all joyous and we're full of life passion and life energy, life force energy, going with the flow? Now, how do these things relate to what's happening in the world and the importance of it? Well, with the energy that I experienced at Halloween, and I did a shamanic ceremony, a magic mushroom ceremony together with a very dear friend of mine, and I basically snapped out of the low vibrational emotion that was ruling me, that was keeping me at a dense frequency, easily controllable and absolutely not in my power. But still, I chose to share that with you, dear human family, dear friends of the human family, because this is all part of the spiral of awakening and a true awakening process where we go through all sorts of emotions that are there for a reason. And the reasons for this I will get into this episode. So, the spiral goes up, the spiral goes down. Go with the flow, and that is what we're here to experience. We're here to experience all of the emotions and learn from all the experiences that we have here. And today, as always, you won't be hearing anything new here. Deep down inside of you, you know this information. And there is no news here. I want to remind you always that today we're delving deep into the ancient, timeless, and everlasting principles of the natural order that lie at the heart of navigating the matrix with natural law principles. Those principles of the natural order are what is going to make all the difference along the journey that we're on Mother Earth, in our awakening path, when we know what these principles are and we align our life according to these principles, which no one can escape from, not even the so-called rulers of this world. And that's where we have them. That's how we can make a true difference. And there's nothing new under the sun. And with this episode, we are escaping the news matrix of distraction. I always put up this slide of Plato's cave in navigating the matrix because it is profound. This single picture is profound wisdom that was described by Plato in his allegory of the cave. The news matrix keeps us trapped in the matrix of distraction, where we lose sight of the foundational principles, of the most important information that we need to be aware of, that lead us onto the other side of freedom. And this news matrix, it doesn't matter if the news are coming from the alternative media or from the mainstream media. I've put this slide of the media loop up before. Also check out my other videos where you can see that. All the news keeps us trapped and makes us forget about the principles of the natural order, that the world situation we find ourselves in is for the causal factors, for the cause that we put into effect every single day of our life. And we need to face the reality of the situation, namely that we are being maneuvered into a completely controlled society and a completely controlled reality. But if we only stay stuck on the level of information of the news matrix, we don't make it out into freedom. And this is what this show today is fully dedicated to share with you. To share with you my personal experience, what has been going on with me, and how now, having bust the bubble of my low vibrational emotional prison that I was stuck in for 5 months, one can say, it has served the best learning lesson that I needed to have. And that's why I can share this with you today here, that the most depressing and the most low vibrational states and experiences can serve as an awakening trigger toward freedom. So the biggest pain might just be your biggest treasure. Life gives you its greatest gifts disguised as your worst nightmare. And this is what true Gnosis is all about. It's about the truth. It's about that the truth is painful. But the truth is the truth and will always stay the truth, and freedom can only be manifested when we live in the truth. We act according to the truth and we speak our truth. So Gnosis, from which we get the word knowledge, this is the information that we are going to focus on today. And through Gnosis, we come full circle on our experience. In my case, for example, my low vibrational state of being started on the 31st of May 2021, when the Gnostic takeover split happened with Errol and with Ahmed. And that created the next 5 months up to the 31st of October 2021, the day of Halloween, in which I snapped out of the low vibrational state of being. And now I am integrating all of the learning lessons that were served to me because of what happened in the past. It's a massive healing process that has reached the pinnacle, and I'm so grateful to share this wisdom today with you that comes right after the very powerful and energetically charged mushroom ceremony that I had on Halloween. The news matrix of distraction is nothing that we are going to entertain today. We are going to entertain the fundamental questions of life here. We're going to entertain and investigate what the matrix truly is. The most important questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Why is the world as it is? And how can we change the state of the world? How can we heal? And how does our healing relate to the healing of all other beings? What is love? How do we get strength? And how do we get power? What is power? All these fundamental questions is what we're going to look at today. So, what is the matrix? What is this control system that is getting tighter and tighter and tighter for all of us, staring down the barrel of worldwide totalitarianism, complete control, where a group of humanity with a psychopathic mindset lives in the delusion that they can rule over all of us. But what control system do they serve? What is the matrix? let's go deeper. The Matrix is a dream world, an artificial world that does not really exist. And like this scene in The Matrix describes this dream world, have you ever had a dream, Neo, that was so real that you thought it was real? And this is where most of humanity is at. Most of humanity believes that there is nothing we can do about the evolution of our world, the actual involution of our world, I should say, because the world is going backward and is going backward rapidly, heading into full-blown digital totalitarianism of total control. And most think there is nothing we can do about it. Well, you just have to take the V. And who am I to make any difference? Well, maybe only you and only me are the ones that can ever make a difference. And we don't have to wait for anyone to come along and save us. We don't need saving. Looked at the situation from a different perspective, I think we are here to motivate each other, share ideas like this video that I'm creating here. I'm sharing with you the deepest of wisdom that I've gained from deep depression, anxiety. I thought the world was ending. I thought it was all over. I thought everything is lost for me. But then the great miracle happened. And I'm further along the spiral of awakening, where I realized I had to go deep down in order to go right up the frequencies and change the dream world that I exist in. I truly create my own reality. This is one of the foundational principles that were shown to me again on Halloween. And of course we all know this, but it's always good to make each other remember those very important facts that are hidden by psychopaths that don't want us to know this information. As you can see here, this pandemic, is it in the room with us now? What we need to realize is that, and he's just a puppet, okay, of the real forces at work in the background that drive this agenda for control. But he, Bill Gates, is a total psychopath. And what they want to do with us is to make us also into psychopaths. Make us go crazy and mad. They want to assimilate us into their ideology of living, because that's what they believe in, that it is okay to control human beings and to torture human beings and get away with it. It is okay to not show any evidence for the claims they make. We can do whatever we want because the rules of the natural order, the principles of the natural order, for some magical reasons don't apply to us Satanists. Well, that is a wrong, and we need to prove them wrong. And I'll get into how we can make that come about. The way they do this is the way they try to assimilate us into their psychopathic ideology of life and into their belief system of what is called the old religion of Satanism. The people driving world events and in control over the multinational corporations and the foundations that are really running this world, they are practicing Satanists. And I'm not talking about the Hollywoodized version of Satanism, to praying to some entity called Satan. No, what true Satanism is all about is trauma-based mind control. Because a true Satanist is a psychologist. They know about hidden knowledge of human psychology and how we tick. This is what Operation Paperclip, bringing the Nazis to the US and continuing on the research that the Nazis were doing on mind manipulation through MK Ultra, and the technologies that were created on the knowledge about mind control and how to manipulate the human mind to do what these dark occultists want us to do. The result of that is the television, is the internet, is the smartphone. And those all serve the agenda for enslaving us to them, to be enslaved by them. And we need to be aware of how they trap us into their system of control, and it's all run under trauma-based mind control, and we need to find out how we can clear, how we can heal those traumas that are deep within our unconscious mind. So it's important to make those traumas conscious, bring them into the conscious mind and heal them. I will be talking about this later in this show. What we're dealing with is a force of limitation. So because of their state of consciousness, in the Gnostic teachings they were called the Archons. I've been talking a lot lately about the Wetiko virus, as it is called in the Native American tradition, Wetiko. It is ultimately a force of limitation because of the way they treat other sentient beings. They're trapped in their frequency bubble of low vibrational emotions. And the same way that they want to assimilate us into their psychopathic ideology with the muzzles, with distance to each other, no love but division and anger and frustration. The end result of all of this is assimilating us into low vibrational emotions, into a low vibrational frequency trap. And this force of limitation, the biggest key that they have and that they use against us, the biggest key knowledge that we need to be aware of what they do with us, what they really are driving at, is that this force of limitation, working through puppets like Bill Gates, it knows how we create reality. That's when we cut away from the news matrix of distraction, where there's always new news and this one says this and this one says that, and it's important also to keep a track of what's going on right now. However, we lose ourselves too much in the news matrix of distraction, when the real information about how we create freedom is knowing how we create reality and questioning the nature of reality, seeing through the materialistic paradigm that we've been taught at school and that is being taught at universities, that we live in a dead, materialistic world where everything is separate from each other. Looking at quantum physics and quantum mechanics and knowing that the world we experience is based on energy, frequency and vibration, then we begin to understand and understand that it is us that creates the reality that we experience outside of us. We create from our internal state of being, from our internal state of vibration, that is then manifested outside of us in our experienced world. This is the singular most important information, and everything else comes from that. That is the singular most important information that this force of limitation, for which Bill Gates is just a puppet for, what they don't want us to know, that we create reality, that our state of perception creates reality. And what state of perception do you think are we going to have when we're only distracted by the news matrix, which always creates a feedback loop that we already know? Always staying on the superficial level of the iceberg and never going deep down into the waters and see the hidden dynamics at play that are happening in our world. And the hidden dynamics in our world are that our perception and our state of perception creates the reality that we experience. And Agenda 21 was transformed into Agenda 2030, the UN Agenda 2030. And the Agenda 21 is the agenda of the 21st century. And that was the trigger to create a completely controlled reality, a completely controlled society. The trigger event was 9/11. Right at the beginning of the 21st century, looking at the long-term view of what's really going on in the world, and that trauma-based mind control lies at the heart of it. And one of the most important words and notions in the trauma-based mind control theme are triggers. And David Icke, who wrote an extensive book about 9/11, I personally did not read it because I look into other subjects, but he called his phenomenal work about the true background of 9/11, he called it the trigger. And this is what truly triggered that which we're involved in now. The trigger for mass psychosis. And that goes back 20 years, where the trigger was activated in our unconscious. We need to know the hidden dynamics, how we are being played. And through this knowledge, our perception changes, because our perception changes through the input of new information, changing our vision of the world. Suddenly it makes sense. Now this is the way they are making it happen, through our minds. And the perception of mass psychosis and people not wanting to face themselves and their own traumas, wanting to take the quote-unquote easy way out by taking the V, which is not the easy way out. It's actually the path of true suffering, needing to take the next and the next and the next and the next along this journey of transhumanism, of creating cyborgs and transforming humanity into cyborgs. It's not the easy way out. We need to face ourselves. And this mass psychosis that's going on since the trigger has been re-triggered in March 2020 with the first lockdown. This is what is programming the Matrix. An artificial reality that is being programmed with the knowledge about how we project reality through our minds, and with the knowledge that our perception creates reality, and they want our perceptions in the frequency state of low vibrational emotion, and that psychosis creates the Matrix. An artificial reality that is a completely controlled reality. And this is the true background to what is now being released as the metaverse. The plan of Facebook creating a completely artificial reality, because they want to hijack us, to hijack our minds and put us into an artificial environment where they can control us. But we need to see through their modus operandi of what they're really doing with us. Again, the forces of limitations true agenda is based on trauma-based mind control. The trigger happened on 9/11 and was re-triggered as a trauma to manifest the reality of 2020 to 2030, wanting to program an artificial reality of the Matrix and have us trapped in that reality where we are controlled by only a handful of people that know the information of how we create reality. And using this slide that I have also from a book from David Icke, is that keeping us in a low vibrational state, being trapped in the emotions of fear, being trapped in the emotions of guilt, of anger, of sadness, of being in a state of depression. That is a limited perception. And that limited perception creates the matrix and programs the matrix like a vinyl, where this program is just being played out in our minds, in our unconscious state. And awakening is, as I showed you before, it's a spiral of awakening. We're always getting more and more aware. And awakening is especially about all the unconscious programs that are running in the back of our mind. All the limiting beliefs that we have. Like, for example, I have been facing myself the last 5 months, and the prime thing that I needed to heal is the aspect of self-love. Because I had a trauma with 3 years old where a limited belief was instilled and installed in my unconscious mind. And the basis of that is a lack of self-love. And that limiting belief creates a limited perception. As you can see here, the human being is interacting with the infinite field of all potentiality that exists all around us. So all of reality, quoting Nikola Tesla, all reality is based on energy, frequency, and vibration. And when we have a limited perception, we are interacting with an infinite field of possibilities, an infinite field, an infinite potentialities for perception. And by having a limited perception, as a result of limiting beliefs, we are only interacting with the infinite field on a range where we can still be controlled by the psychopaths and the forces of limitation that the psychopaths in our world, like Bill Gates, serve. Now, going deeper, who the psychopaths serve, we have already found out, are the forces of limitation. But why? Why do these forces of limitation actually exist? It's demons that are guarding the door of the inner child. They're guarding the door, to use an analogy. So if we symbolize our being, an infinite being, a human being in this world, but a human being with infinite potential of creation, to create infinite potential realities. When we symbolize a human being as a house, for example, where we can go into all rooms of the house, infinite possibilities depending on how many rooms you have, and you can go into all rooms and experience different experiences. That house is us as a human being in this symbology. And the inner child, the activation of the inner child, and the inner child is positioned in this house in the basement, in the cellar, in the deepest darkness. That's where we find the inner child locked up in closed doors And those doors are guarded by the demons, by our inner demons. And until we make the choice to free our inner child, we are being controlled by the forces of limitation. And in order to release the inner child that is locked behind a door, and the only key to that door being held by the demons that are guarding that door, and by the demon of demons represented by the archetypal figure of Satan, or the demiurge as it was called by the Gnostics. In order to free that inner child, we have to face our inner demons, and we have to face our low vibrational emotions of fear, of sorrow, and of our shame, that which we are ashamed about. We need to face it in order to walk down into the basement, face those demons and tell them, I am sovereign. I am here to free my inner child. It is my inner child, and now your responsibility of guarding the door falls into my responsibility. I take over now, and you can leave. That's how we free the inner child. And the inner child has all to do with facing those low vibrational emotions. Learn to discipline your emotions, because if you don't, your enemies will use them against you. The enemy being the force of limitation, that when we have trapped emotions that we don't take responsibility for and transform, keep us stuck in a low vibrational frequency state, which creates a low vibrational perception, a limited perception. Learn to discipline your emotions, because otherwise the enemies will use them against you. The name of the game is shadow work, cleansing and releasing trapped emotions, which we can do anytime, and I'll get deeper into that process. This is when we face ourselves and the low vibrational emotions trapped in our body. We activate the inner child. We release the inner child from the demons that are guarding the inner child, and we activate the heart anchor intelligence. That is the equivalent of the power of the inner child, of the happiness of the inner child, coupled together with the strength of the inner child. Power, happiness, and strength. This is what we need. So whereas in the news matrix of distraction, we would just be thinking, oh, if only we would sort out this situation with the COVID crisis and the COVID cult, if we would just remove these psychopathic beings, then everything will be fine and the world will be back to normal again. It's a lie. It's a fact that in order to get to freedom and out of the prison that we're in, we need to find out how we get into our power. And we do that by healing our trauma. That is what the world truly needs. It is not getting rid of the psychopaths. Okay, this is always a superficial surface when we look at the iceberg model, okay, of the surface level of reality. If we would just remove these psychopaths, you're only working on the symptom level of reality when we know the ancient, timeless and everlasting principles of the natural order, of which cause and effect are a foundational principle. That which is caused is then reflected in the effects. We can only deal with the world situation and truly change it on a causal level. And the only reason psychopaths rule over our lives is because we gave our power away to them. Because we are in fear of them. We're in fear of being fined. We're in fear of rocking the boat, of being ourselves truly and living from our heart, anchor intelligence and releasing the power of the inner child. They wouldn't be able to handle that. And that is what truly gets us out. Power, happiness and strength. But how do we get there? This is the question. The question of all questions, of course. Yeah, it's great to hear about heart anchor intelligence. Yeah, and we just have to live from the heart and anchor in that heart. Well, how do we do it? How do we get there? Quote that I shared before from Carl Jung. That which you need most will be where you least want to look. And when I first saw that quote, I was devastated. I was like, oh no. Because I knew that is the absolute truth. The paradox of life. With life giving its greatest gifts disguised as your worst nightmare. I realized that I had to heal my relationships with people. I realized that I needed to reach out to them and just be humble and say what was in my heart, what was on my mind, and forgive people that have hurt me, and realize that I myself also hurt them. It could be anything, healing stuck emotions, because in the world that we can't see, in the world of energy, frequency and vibration, we always still have an energetic connection to all the people that we've interacted with during our life. And there's a way of healing our suppressed emotions is by clearing the energies with those people, doing it consciously. And another way of going where we least want to go is what I've done the last 19 days now. Started going into the ice-cold river and bathing in the ice-cold river. And I started with a minute, which was the coldest minute of my life. And now I'm with 3 minutes, and even though it's still not easy, I let the body do what the body is capable of doing. I've learned this from the great teacher, the ice shaman. That is Wim Hof, if you've heard of him. And underneath in the description below, you'll find also what has really also helped me. So not only the ice cold bath that I take every single day in the morning when I wake up, I walk to the river. I'm quite happy to have a river 5-minute walk away from where I am right now. Not only do I go bath in the ice cold water of the river, but I also do the breathing techniques from Wim Hof, which are very, very easy to implement, and they have a profound effect in order to get to our heart anchor intelligence and into power, happiness and strength. It has to do with the uptake of oxygen. The truth is simple, and healing can be so simple. And water symbolically represents emotions. How much water do we have in our body? You know that. 70 to 80% is said often. And that cleanses and heals our trauma when we start going where it hurts and stay in them, push the body and let the body do what the body is capable of doing. The cold is my teacher, and it gives me great clarity of my mind. And having done that as a regular discipline is a virtue. Then I did the mushroom ceremony at Halloween, and that was the pinnacle of my healing. I was then went up the spiral of awakening. Although the mushroom experience for the first 2 to 2.5 hours was traumatic. I thought I was going crazy. I was dealing with deep emotions of psychosis, of thinking I was going to go mad. But then I realized I'm mentally very strong, and we are all very strong mentally. And that mushroom ceremony, when you do this in the right setting with people that you trust, that can really help you, with a good shaman, and I was blessed to have a good shaman with me as a friend. You can clear those deeply trapped emotions and rise up once again. Not only is the cold my teacher, but Wetiko Satanists are also my teacher when we go full circle with the knowledge that everything is a holistic, intricately linked field of consciousness where everything is one, and that where we are one, even though we're on our journey of awakening, and we try to cause as little harm as possible to other sentient beings, to animals, to human beings. We reduce our harm in the world. However, these satanic elements in our world, the satanic followers like Bill Gates, the puppets of the real forces in the background who serve a satanic cult and serve a Wetiko mind virus that want to control the entire world. Those narcissists, egoists, trapped in ego consciousness, these psychopaths are in a holistic field of consciousness and going full circle with true Gnosis. Even those psychopathic beings are one with us. It's all one field. We can't get away from the infinite oneness of the world we exist in, and of existence itself. And when we get triggered by those Satanists, it shows us that we still have shadow aspects inside ourselves that still resonate to that low vibrational frequency that they triggered in us. So we see a Bill Gates, for example, on a video clip, or whoever of the puppet agents you recall, or you see pictures of war, you see how they torture the children with the muzzles and the testing in the schools. When that makes you fall into a low vibrational state, that low vibrational state is triggered by what you've just seen, and because that low vibrational state is triggered, it comes from the unconscious into the conscious mind, and now you can deal with that emotion by just feeling it. And by feeling that emotion, you make it heal, and you heal your traumas through that. So as much as I don't like these agents of the system, I have to recognize that they truly are my teachers. And this is also one of the visions that came in as a result of the experience that I had, is if you were to sit on a table with a Rothschild, for example, or whoever from these elite aristocratic families, they would say, well, I rule over you and I rule over this planet. I have the biggest power in their perception, okay, in their psychopathic, egomaniacal and narcissistic perception, from their limited state of being, from being driven from a limited force. They say, I rule over this planet. I can control you because I have more power than you. But they only rule over this planet, and that is the truth, as long as you are not in your power. Because their whole basis of their power is that we give it to them. And when we take our power back, we change the whole game. We are the game changers. And another way of putting it, if you were to sit on a table with a Mr. Rothschild, he would say, as long I rule over you, as long as you don't have another idea that is better than the system of control that we put into place. Because the system they're running with their fractional reserve lending, with interest on money, and the whole basis of how they enslave the world financially and economically, and taking all of the wealth of humanity throughout time immemorial, ever since they implemented the central banking system at the beginning of the 20th century, we have to realize that that system is just an idea. And you can't fight an idea, you can only create a new idea. And there'll be a part 2 of episode 7 of Navigating the Matrix. There'll be a part 2, and in that part 2 I'll get into the law and how you can checkmate these wannabe elite power brokers through the law. And that I will show you next time. This video is all based on understanding the true nature of reality. Okay, this hiding the information of how we create reality is the knowledge that these secret society structures and these satanic networks have most hidden from us. They have hidden how we control our reality, and that we, as sovereign beings, dictate what happens in our reality. And because they have hidden this information, that is what creates a power differential where they then think we're all powerful and I rule over the planet because I'm all powerful, because I'm part of an elite family, and we rule because of our claim to rulership. But when we take that power back and we have access to the information of how we create reality, we nullify the power differential that they have over us by nullifying the knowledge differential that is between us and them. That's why I say these Wetiko Satanists are my teachers. I only have to nullify the knowledge differential and then apply that crucial knowledge about how we create our reality. Because we are walking, talking universes. This is incredibly important. Another key insight that I gained from my experience the other day. And as always, I've been pondering on this idea for quite some time. But from my experience, and please, let's discuss this in the comments, we truly are walking, talking universes, okay? Take a look at me. And this is what it is. My vibrational state creates the reality I go into resonance with. That's why certain things only happen to certain people and other things happen to other people. It's because of their vibrational state. That comes from their perceptions of life, if the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. And actually, that vessel of our body, and this is why in the end game now, okay, that we're involved in right now, that's why in the end game they want to take over our body through the V, patent it, and own our own body. Why? Because we are walking, talking universes inside our being, in our body, where our mind projects reality. There is a whole universe inside of us. The universe is inside of us and all the multiverses, and it's dependent on what frequency we tune in through our perceptions, what reality we experience. And the biggest trap that we can fall into is to just create the matrix, this artificial reality, by staying stuck in our low vibrational emotions and the limited perception that is created by that, and that creates the prison reality that we then experience. This is the biggest mistake we can make, and that we only create that reality that they want us to create by not facing ourselves and the childhood traumas and all the traumas that we have had during our life. The darkness triggers the light. The yin and the yang symbol, as you can see in the dark aspect, is the seed of light, and in the light aspect, the seed of darkness is in the light. So the darkness triggers the light. So be happy for any trigger that happens to you, because when you're triggered, the stuck emotion comes from the subconscious mind into the conscious mind, and now you can deal with it. Like I was in my mushroom state. I was feeling psychotic, nervous, and fear. All the fear came up of the blackout that could happen soon, and the financial system going down, and then more and more chaos. And I realized, no, it doesn't have to be, because I can make all the difference. Like you can make all the difference in your true power. When we integrate the darkness inside of us through internal alchemy. It's what happens internally that changes the external world. It's a transformation of energy. Be happy when you're triggered. Realize that the nightmare becomes freedom. The nightmare where we're distracted and in Plato's cave and controlled can be transformed to freedom internally through a transformation of energy, where the sorrow, the shame, the doubt, the anger, the fear, the sadness is transformed to love. And through love, we have power, happiness, and strength. And we activate our heart anchor intelligence. And that transformation of energy can only happen through responsibility. Be happy when you're triggered. Become aware that the trigger is here to heal that emotion, to heal you from your pain and suffering. And you heal it through your ability to respond instead of reacting and shadow projecting onto the one who has triggered you. You have a choice in every single moment of your life, and trust me, I always have been forgetting that I have that choice, and I myself have been reacting to when people have triggered me, and I myself have fallen into the low vibrational state of victimhood. And look at those people that have done that to me. I was there with Errol and Ahmed, even realizing that that was coming from a victim state of consciousness. But with time and with honesty, with, in other words, the truth, I realized I was no victim, and in actual fact, Errol and Ahmed served to me the greatest gift that was disguised as my worst nightmare. And now I am back, much more powerful, not even though I myself in my life have gone through many phases of low vibrational emotions where I'm depressed. It's because of my depression that I am back, and I am powerful, strong, and healthy. Because reality is not linear. It's a spiral. The spiral nature of reality, as we had before, the spiral of awakening. You can only get up the frequencies, and you can only get into those joyous states of being by going deep into the waters of darkness. The spiral nature of reality. Reality is a spiral, manifested as energy in motion inside of us as emotions. And that is also contained in the great mystery of the sequence of 3, 6, and 9. When we recall the quote from the great genius of Nikola Tesla, If you want to know the key to the universe, think of 369. That's the hidden sequence of the universe. 3, 6, and 9. So you levitate up with the 9, you spiral up, the 9 representing the opposite of the 6, going down, low vibrational emotion up to high vibrational states of being. You only get into high vibrational states of being because you transform the energy of the low vibrational state of being. And the low vibrational state of being is represented by the forces of limitation. The limited force that is trapped itself in low vibrational emotions and wants to assimilate us into a low vibrational state of being represents the 6. But the 6 is a grounding. It represents a grounding energy, a grounding the energy inside of our being, and that's why the 6, 6, 6. But in actual fact, it is the grounding energy. That's why we take back the 666, okay? By realizing it's just grounding. We're experiencing low vibrational emotions because we need to ground them, we need to heal them with the 6. And then, through grounding with the 6, we levitate up with the 9. And what is it then with the 3? The 3 represents the Trinity, of which I talked about often. Okay, and the Trinity is represented by the male component of creation, our thoughts, the female component of creation, our emotions, and those coupled together, the male and the female, in our actions. So we think as we feel, and so we act. When that is in balance, when we think as we feel and as we act, we truly are living our life's purpose. And that's where we spiral up further and further up the awakening spiral. And realizing whenever we're triggered, it only serves our learning lesson. It's a sign you're going up again. And whatever time it takes, with me it was 5 months now in a sort of like an embryo state. And that's why I'm doing this video, because it need not be so long. Okay? When we discipline our mind, okay, and when we do certain disciplines that help us, okay, like I've shared with you, the cold being my teacher and jumping into the ice cold water. The more we do this sort of discipline, like meditation and doing the things that are uncomfortable, like the ice cold water, we are much more we're much clearer in our mind to face reality and to transform the emotions that are triggered by our environment and by the people that surround us. So that's how the 3, the Trinity, the 6, the grounding energy, and the 9, the levitation energy, how they work together. From an energetic perspective, that's the secret of the 369 that makes us transcend the matrix. And the truth is that they are afraid of you. They're afraid of us, of our true power. That's why they need to control us, because you don't control beings when they're not powerful. They want to control us because we are all powerful. Because, as I have said, we are walking, talking universes. That's why they need to control us, because we create reality. They're afraid of you. And awakening is a deep process. Even the earth is crying her way through. She cries when the rain falls onto the earth. She's angry with when we see the manifestation through earthquakes, when the earth is trembling. The anger, or is it the fear, the trembling of fear? All these emotions and energies can be seen through the elements in nature, like joy. The joy is represented by the air, the element of air, and so on. She's going through this process too, and we're doing it together with her. And the more we go out into nature, the more we get grounded, and the more we can heal ourselves. And when we are in our power, we can heal the world. But we can only heal the world. We can only heal the world and make our contribution to a better world when we are in our power. It only works like that. Let the bubble burst. The Matrix is a bubble reality where we realize that our life, is an emotional mirror, and there's no running away from what we have experienced. We can't run away from our past. We can't run away from the sadness, from the fear, from the anger. We all need to face it, and let's help each other face that fear. That's my dedication. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do now for the people around me. I'll be there for the people to share my wisdom of what I've gone through, and I can say now, there is nothing to fear but fear itself. The actual fear comes because we are in fear of the incredible power that we hold and that we have to change everything. That's the real fear. But the real fear comes from them. They are afraid of us, and all they want to do is put the fear onto us, to assimilate us into the fear that they have as psychopaths, because they know their time's over. However, in their delusion, they think it will continue, but their time is over, and we will win this war. Let the bubble burst. It's such a feeling of release. And I cannot thank the mushroom medicine of our great mother. That's why she serves us that medicine. And I didn't have to find that medicine. It came to me. So always be aware when you have the possibility and when it manifests in your reality. You take it and it can change your reality, but be aware that the setting has to be right, okay? And you're doing it with people you trust, and that can really help you. And then that can help you burst the bubble. And it need not be with psychedelic medicine. You can do that just with ice cold water technique, ice cold showers. Okay, when you don't have a reader next to you. Okay, go into the ice cold shower. Take a listen to Wim Hof. You'll have some links underneath in the description below. And that can also burst the bubble of perception and lead us into freedom. The freedom is outside of the bubble, and the bubble only reflects our trapped emotions. And when we heal those trapped emotions, the bubble bursts, and then we're outside of the bubble. True freedom then manifests when we deal with our internal shit inside of us. And that then leads to a perception of freedom, where we experience a new reality. So the limited beliefs that were creating a limited perception interact with the field only in a limited way. I can't do this, I can't do that, it never happens for me, and that then creates our experience because it's a feedback loop. But we get new information and we actually find out how we can get out of this vibrational frequency prison, because the nature of the prison is a energetic, it's a vibrational, it's a psychological, spiritual prison. And we hold the keys to changing our perceptions and interact with the field in a different way. And because of that, we cannot manifest. We will not manifest a world where we are enslaved by opening our minds. And opening our minds we can only do when we do the shadow work and realize the only way out is through. There is no getting away from it. And be happy that you may be going through some hardship, because when you're in depression, when you don't feel right, and when you've not felt right for quite some time, realize, I'm telling this to you right now, I've been there. I've been there just like you, and I've snapped out of it. I've snapped out of it. And I will experience it again, and this is the wave form manifestation of this reality. It goes up, it goes down, and we find the balance in it. Okay? The only way out is through, in shadow work. Instead of reacting to the stimulus that comes from our environment, and the great story that I shared with you, also check out the video about the lion's gaze, in which I explain that instead of chasing the low vibrational emotion as a stick like a dog, okay, and reacting to the stimulus like a dog, when it rings the bell, think of even Pavlov and the basis of behaviorism in psychology. That bell rings and the dog starts barking, or it knows that food is coming. It's the reaction, it's the program, it's the way they program us and have been programming us since birth. Okay? And that's exactly the way how they have used trauma-based mind control through the trigger of 9/11 that led us into the mass psychosis that is the COVIDian cult-created crisis, that serves as an awakening trigger for us. All these dark forces serve our awakening. That's the truth. And when we're in our power, we change the game and we solve the problem at the root level. Love and take care of the inner child. Love it and take care of it. Look at these children here. Don't you love them? Aren't they beautiful? If I'd see them on the streets now, I'd just smile and think how absolutely beautiful they are. Well, let me tell you, you are like this child here. I am like the child there. We're just as lovable. And we need to give ourselves the love first. This is what I realize. It's the number one thing that most people forget. And I myself have been suffering through a lack of self-love. And also there's all sorts of things going on. There's so much black magic going on right now that we get attacked psychologically. Also there's psychic attacks happening all the time. Also I've been experiencing this so much. Also we get attacked by the dark side, by the dark force that then can trigger us into self-hatred, self-doubt, self-worry, doubting the self and actually working against ourself. No more. recognize it, and that will heal it. Love and take care of the inner child. Don't forget it, because otherwise we can't love anyone. We can't give what we ourselves don't have. Take your power back, and the demon that has been guarding the door to your heart, to your inner child, to your heart anchor intelligence, where your power, your strength, your happiness is, that demon then has to leave, because as you can see in the picture here, the warrior has returned. So before, the demon was guarding the inner child. Now the warrior shows up and says, no need for you anymore, because you only exist as an inner demon inside of me, and you only serve the evolution of my consciousness, and now you must leave! Because we're taking the planet back. Ladies and gentlemen, dear human family listening to this is what is truly going on right now. Step by step we'll get there. And in part 2, I'll share with you the aspect of law and what it takes to take the planet back. So this is it from me. It's been a long episode, special episode for you, because of course, I mean, you've not heard from me for quite some time, and I said I needed time for myself. I took that time for myself, doing those breathing exercises and the discipline, stop drinking alcohol, and just have the courage to say, I'm gonna do something different, okay? And it can be whatever habit of addiction that we have. Just take one addiction and just say, okay, I'm not gonna do that now, and I'm gonna push myself, and that challenge, I know what the outcome of that will be, which is the activation of the inner child. Power, happiness, and strength is gonna be the result. And that's the only thing that will get us out of this world crisis. So if we don't do that, realize that you yourself are an instrument for the Wetiko virus through the habits that harm you. That's how it works. And those habits like smoking, I've had it myself. Habits like smoking are to suppress the emotions. So when I stopped smoking, the emotions came up. I felt depressed, but I pulled through it. I added jumping into the ice cold water. You have to add a new routine, a new habit, and that then changes your perception. It's the habit that changes your perception. That works on the unconscious mind, and it takes, like, for example, 28 days of a new habit to really integrate into your being and change the program. Let the trauma and the trapped emotion come up, and the trauma actually only happens, you're triggered, and the trauma that goes back into your past is then activated again in this moment now, and that's the greatest present, because before, that trauma from the past, from our childhood, was in a solid, concrete state, and through the trigger, it has now been liquefied. Here we are again with the water, and now it's up to our responsibility, to our ability to respond, to just feel that emotion and let it go. And then by going deep down into the spiral, we spiral up, and we spiral up further, and once we know how this process works, we can bust any bubble, and our journey continues, and we'll be all powerful to face the situation that we have on our hands right now. And we do it together, we help each other, and that's what my channel is dedicated to do, to share with you my experience and how I got out of my depression. And it's beautiful. I'm so thankful, and I'm so thankful for you listening. Whatever you're going through right now, I'm here with you. I'll continue on this journey. This has been part 1 of episode 7 of Navigating the Matrix with Natural Law Principles, and stay on this channel for more updates on how to exit the Matrix. Much love to all of you, and take very good care. Till next time, bye bye.